Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're moving into the weekend, and that means that we're going to be checking out some special selections, which are songs specifically chosen by y'all. Today's we're going to be looking at a request from Chips. It says, "Hey Bryan, here's a request for a live performance from Colin Stetson, The Love It Took to Leave You. Hope you find it interesting, at least from a musician perspective." I'm pretty excited about this. We got a guy here with the saxophone. I'm always down for a good saxophone playing. I am seeing the Adult Swim logo in the corner, and the description says it's a live performance taken from Adult Swim 2020 Online Fest, and I don't know what that is, but I know what Adult Swim is. So I'm expecting a rug pull here, setting me up with a sax solo and maybe doing something comedic in there. However, maybe this was just a very straightforward online festival during COVID during 2020. So it's very possible this is just going to be a very straightforward sax song. In which case, I'm down for either, honestly. So let's get into this and see what's going on. So we've talked about circulatory breathing in the past. And I'm pretty sure we saw a little bit of it there. Puffing the cheeks out. Pretty usual sign of circulatory breathing. However, I think there's also some reverb going on. There's actually some modulation. No, I'm gonna stand for that. I don't think there's any modulation going on to cover this up. I love that pedal note at the bottom. Oh snap! Is that picking up his vocal cords? love how distressing the music is. There's a lot of chaos in it, a lot of coloring outside the lines, so the notes are extremely quick. And there's just a lot of instability in these runs. Yeah, the moving pedal tone melody there. Golly. What can I even say to elevate that beyond? You guys saw and watched the same thing I did. Oh, jeez. So, the song is constant 16th notes. Yeah, if we're taking those pedal tones as a downbeat, then we got 16th notes. Constant for 8 minutes almost. Well, the opening was these long drawn out like whale sounds. So, well, actually wailing. Wailing, I would actually say, releasing of emotions before he got into it proper. So, about 7 minutes, I'd say, of constant saxophone playing. And unlike drums or percussion instruments or guitars, aerophones require air. You have to breathe. We just talked about this the other day that typically when we have aerophone instruments, we tend to see more rests in the writing for them because they require moments of breath. The person themselves must breathe in order to play, push air out. Um, so there has to be moments where air comes into the body where no playing is happening. And I think we were talking about that in pertaining to guitar solos, how we tend to see less rests in guitar solos because there is no physical limitation that would stop the person from, picking the strings or plucking the strings or however they wish to perform with the guitar. Um, and I've mentioned a couple of times on this channel, I don't think we've really gone too in depth into it, but circulatory breathing. And this is just a master class in it. The dude does it for 7 minutes straight, and it is awesome in the literal sense. I am full of awe watching this. This is just taking the craft of saxophone playing, pushing it to the envelope, pushing it to its limits. So what circulatory breathing is I think there's a couple of ways to do it. What I always learned and how I practiced doing it, and I never got real good at it, it is a very unique way of playing an instrument, is that you take some of the air from your diaphragm and you push it into your mouth. And that's where the big cheeks come from. Then you use your mouth muscles, the muscles themselves, to push the air out rather than your diaphragm. And I always found that I couldn't get as much volume or strength out of it, but it really is sort of a momentary thing because while you're pushing it out, you're breathing in through your nose and you're putting that back into your body. And it's a circle, a circulatory uh, breathing pattern of pushing the air into your mouth and then breathing in through your nose and filling up your reserves again, filling up your diaphragm. It is fascinating. The first time I think I saw it in action outside of an exercise was Wynton Marsalis playing. I think it was Wynton Marsalis playing "Flight of the Bumblebee" on trumpet. I'm pretty sure that was Wynton Marsalis that I saw. But the song was definitely "Flight of the Bumblebee" on trumpet, and it just blew me away that the dude played for 3 minutes without, you know, breathing, so to speak, without taking those very visible breaths and having breaks in the playing. It blew my mind. It was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. This was probably about 17 or 18 years old when I came up. I think I was about that age. Might have been anyway, somewhere in there, late teens, easily. Um, and this just it's that same level of expertise, just constant, quick playing, precise playing, and then having this, having to worry about your breathing and all that. But then the dude puts I'm I'm 50% sure on this. I'm not 100% sure that this is what's happening, but it looks like he's creating some of these background choir effects with his own vocal cords, with whatever that is around his throat, picking up his vocal cord vibrations, which would man, I'm I'm terrible at reeded instruments. I don't get them. I don't think I've produced anything other than a squeak on my sister's saxophone when I tried it. I've tried clarinet before. Flute, I get. Flute is not a reeded instrument, but it's a woodwind that I understand. But reeded instruments just make no sense to me. I cannot produce a sound. So I can't really put myself in his perspective too much, but even trying to think about humming while playing the trumpet, it's just multitasking on another. I don't think I'd have a problem physically doing it. But then it's about controlling the embouchure while also hitting the pitches you want to do, while also worrying about your breath and how much you have, and then playing 16th. It's everything combined. I think that's the crazy thing. everything is going to be moderately difficult to quite difficult to do on its own, but the fact that he just does them all together puts it on another level. Um, yeah, this is just, even without the music being as emotive as it is, and we're going to touch on that as we usually do with these analysis sections, get into the music in a bit. Just the physical performance, what is needed to be done as a musician to create the music that he's doing, is it's just on another level. I've never heard of this Colin Stetson dude, but immediately on my radar. Like 30 seconds in, I already knew I needed to look up more of this guy. I didn't even care how good the music was or what story or journey he was going to take me on. Just his physical ability and his mastery of his instrument. It told me everything I needed to know. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if even if you don't enjoy the music, just walk away from this video knowing that this guy is, he's out there. He's out there. Um, but then let's get into the music, right? I'm gonna try to divorce this as much as I can from the performance because the music tells a very interesting story as far as I see it. But I think it's difficult to separate that from the performance because the performance to me is the spotlight. If this song were played on guitar or piano with a choir behind them, I don't think it would hit me as hard, just because the physical requirements, the skill required to do it would not be as high. The fact that a single person is putting all this together elevates the whole song for me. It elevates the storytelling as well. But I'm going to try my best to separate the performance from the song here, the actual music on the paper. So one thing I talked about during the song was the instability of the notes. A lot of what he's playing is not very strong chords. There's a lot of dissonance within them. There's a lot of notes that are a little bit outside the lines. And what I mean by that is they're not notes that are specifically in the chord that the rest of the notes are signifying that the chord should be. So if we're playing a few notes, maybe we have a bar's worth of notes, and we can pick out that most of them fit inside an F major scale, right? But then there's one F sharp somewhere. It doesn't fit in the F major scale. However, it can add some color, right? If everybody gets a coloring book and colors within the lines, they all look the same. But if somebody colors a little bit outside the lines, maybe they make an extra item that isn't in the original picture. They've put their own flair, their own spice on it. It's not necessarily wrong, but it's different. And that's what I mean when I say he colors outside the lines a little bit. He chooses notes that are not typically in relationship to the notes that are played around it. And that's what gives it this sort of unsettling feeling. Not to mention that the entire song seems to be cyclical around just a handful of chords, and they don't really move in any direction. We don't really see any strong progression going on. There's a couple of melody lines where maybe a higher note, or at the end we could definitely hear the pedal note changing every couple of bars and kind of having a little bit of movement there. We could hear it dropping a whole note or a half note every bar or so, and it was creating this idea of a melody, even though the song itself was still this wavy pattern of 16th notes. But just the speed of them all and the repetition of them kind of create these different ideas. Like, you can hear that pedal note, or at least I did. It is a very prominent note, especially since it's so much lower than everything else that he's playing, and it kind of gives it this pulse, this boom, 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 and you can kind of hear this melody line in it, even though it's not an isolated sound. It is very much just in line with everything else that he's playing. But it's one of the cool things about being a pedal note, about using repetition, about having such wide gaps between all of his notes. As far as range goes, they start to take on their own ideas. And it's very clear that you could see this played in maybe like a 3 or 4 piece. Well, no, actually, that would not. I was gonna say you could easily see this in a 3 piece like string, a string trio, with a cello holding down those notes at the bottom, doing like probably a dotted quarter on the downbeats, maybe an eighth, but no, because then everybody else would be playing basically 16th notes on these odd offbeats, really working within the beats. And yeah, I think it'd be difficult to play this. It would be a different beast entirely. Yeah, forget that. I went on a small tangent there that I ended up not agreeing with. But you can hear these different ideas, and I think that's really cool. But also, it's a byproduct of the sort of spacing that he's giving his notes, and the use of repetition. I think if all these notes were different, and he wasn't utilizing many of the same notes, if you watch his hand positions, he mainly keeps them in one position and hits the same combination. So like, this is obviously not what he was playing, but bottom, second to bottom, middle, top, and going up this line over and over and over. And then maybe he'll change his bottom to a little lower. But for the most part, if you watch his hands, they're doing the same thing over and over and over, with minor variations happening in after many bars, not within bars, or even every other bar being something different. And that repetition is what allows the melody line. Our brains start to hear it, all the different notes as their own instrument in a way. So that is really cool how he utilizes that. Going back to the idea of instability, though, there's no chord progression, and he chooses a lot of notes that kind of rub against the notes next to them, and it creates these little harsh moments of dissonance. But they're moved by so quickly, all these 16th notes, they kind of blur together into this wave of uneasiness, tension. And then the lack of chord progression means we also don't get much chord resolution. The song just sort of exists as it is without moving towards anything. The whole song just kind of exists in this pocket of tension, of pain almost, of distress. I mentioned distress a couple of times while listening to it. It is a song that sits in negative emotions. However, there is this interesting idea of freedom in it. I don't know if anybody else caught on to that. Maybe it's just something that I felt while listening to it. But the song has these ideas of tension built into them. However, the tension is based off of ideas of using notes that don't necessarily belong. He's allowed to color outside of the lines here. Not only that, but he has the freedom to do all of this. He has those vocal hums that turn, very wide into choir sounds, most likely through some sort of modulation. He's coloring outside the lines. He's really pushing the song to its limits. He has a lot of freedom in where he takes it and what he does with it. And I think the song is very bittersweet. It kind of utilizes those two ideas of despair. No, not despair. Tension. What was that other word I said? I don't remember. But this tense atmosphere, mixed with the freedom that helps create this tension. So you have this distress. That's what I was looking for. You have this distress, and then sort of this carefree element, which I feel a lot in the vocal choir bit. There's a lot more positivity and less tension there. It provides a little bit more stability to some of the work that's going on in the saxophone that we don't get in the saxophone itself. And to me, it's a song about moving on, doing something that makes you happy, that gives you freedom, even if it isn't necessarily what you want to do, like a necessary step to improve your life. And I can kind of see that working within the song title of The Love It Took to Leave You. Obviously, there's some bittersweetness there. Love is usually a positive thing, but leaving somebody, removing that person from your life is typically a negative thing, especially if it takes a positive emotion to do it. If somebody you hate and you don't want them in your life, you're probably joyous to extract them from your life bubble. But the fact that it says the love it took to leave you means that there's distress here. It requires a positive emotion to separate something, which is usually not a good thing. So I don't know. That's kind of the idea I've got going here. There's a lot of tension in here, but there's also freedom and a little bit of happiness, maybe due in part to what the freedom is allowing this person to do. So yeah, that is my take on Colin Stetson's "The Love It Took to Leave You." Phenomenal work. The song hits. I didn't really talk much during it. Part of that is just because it is very repetitious. It kind of takes the same ideas and utilizes them over and over for 8 minutes. Um, so it's not like there's a lot of new things popping up for me to point out, but at the same time, it's just a song that demands you just feel it. You sit in this pocket and really get into it. It's not a song that really moves anywhere, it just explores a specific emotion. And it does that very well in a way that is extremely entertaining and jaw dropping. So, yes, I don't know what else Colin's done, but I'm already a fan. I gotta look more into this dude. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Anything that stuck out to you. Maybe you have some ideas that I didn't necessarily touch on in my analysis. Put them all in the comments. When you're done, you can head up to the description box. There's a link in there for Linktree. Everything adjacent to the channel is there, such as Discord, Twitter, and Patreon. Above that, you can like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 9 p.m. UTC with the next special selection for the weekend before moving into next week's theme of instrumental songs. I think we're doing instrumental week again, which is really cool. I love instrumental stuff. I think this is a good song to move into that. I don't know what tomorrow is, but if it's instrumental as well, I just don't know how how lucky I could be. Sometimes things just line up. All right, well, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.